Frank Matthews, we had to get locked up together. Now, he was the biggest thing.
Frank Matthews was?
Yeah, period.
Period.
If
and he didn't carry guns and shit either, right?
Nobody do, because you're going to catch an extra case.
Yeah.
Just like back, if I can have a kilo of powder and I get the same time as for an 8-ball of crack, I'm not going to cook up my shit until it's to be served, right? Because if I get popped, I can get caught with a key of powder and do less time than that, right? Well, why am I going to carry a pistol, which give me an automatic 2 years, right? We all would have been doing it jammed up and we was running around with pistols because every time we got popped, instead of being able to pay the lawyers down to court a couple of dollars and keep it moving, you got a gun charge.
We never got stopped.
Because you scared your woman gonna beat you up or her nigga gonna...
We never got stopped by the police. Never.
We had indicted Frank, and our indictment included about 20 foreign defendants, Venezuelan customs agents, and Jules Serini, the courier who came from Marseille with 22 kilos of heroin. Miller and I were requested to report to the criminal division immediately for a meeting with the CIA. There are international ramifications as to things we're doing in Venezuela and with the Russians that we can't talk about. And you will have your indictment dismissed in federal court. Need I say more? And we said, we understand, and they said, have a nice day.
So just why was the Central Intelligence Agency intervening in a drug conspiracy case that revolved around a 29-year-old black man operating out of Brooklyn? The Frank Matthews case gives us a powerful and disturbing glance into the economic state of urban black America circa 1970.
We must realize that something has been happening economically in our country. People are on the move. The population is shifting.
I've always heard that Negroes buy shoddy, poor-quality merchandise.
No, it's just the other way around. According to leading researchers, in proportion to population and income, Negroes buy more quality products than any other comparable United States group. Per capita, they buy more cosmetics, drugs, and toiletries than anyone else in the country.
Like the Italians, Irish, and Jewish families that made their fortune during Prohibition, including the crooked Kennedys, a handful of black gangsters and their families went from rags to riches seemingly overnight. But it was a wild and violent ride, coinciding with the high tide for the civil rights movement. The Superflies and Kingpins were often at odds with pro-black militant movements and often in league with corrupt white law enforcement who allowed illegal drugs to take over the economy and society of places like Harlem as long as they got their cut. White powder, black power is the story of how the illegal drug economy was the first truly large and widespread capital-building tool for African Americans, all made possible by political decisions in Washington, D.C. and its CIA headquarters. With more money, more murders than even the Prohibition gangster era, and with long-lasting consequences that haunt our urban landscapes to this day. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times for black America. In 1959, nearly 60% of blacks lived in poverty. 10 years later, that figure was down to 32%. But while it was the white people fleeing the cities because of crime, decay, and industrial decline, it was black people actually suffering from the rapid growth of crime in the late 60s. The riots across the country, from Watts to Harlem, sped up this process and left a lawless urban landscape ripe for the pickings of a new breed of criminal, the drug kingpin.
Historically, heroin had been in the black communities way back in the early days.
We as Americans always want to be very romantic about things. This is about capitalism, and this is about a type of capitalism that many poor blacks could not go anywhere but to.
As I talked about in Cold War Heroin Heat, The increased drug supply was a direct result of the American government's decision to protect French, Italian, and Chinese drug dealers as they flooded the streets of Black America with illegal drugs for political reasons.
61, 62, when it started getting real popular. And then around 1964, 65, it was really growing. It was booming, like, you know.
In Harlem, which was ground zero of the heroin epidemic thanks to the Italian Mafia, a shocking 20%, 1 in 5 of Black men were injecting heroin with needles on a daily basis circa 1970.
3 of the biggest drug kingpins in the United States at that time were Black: Frank Lucas, Leslie Ike Atkinson, and Frank Pee Wee Matthews. Extremely intelligent. They were not given the education opportunities that the whites had.
It was a poor community. We lived in poor housing. From that poor housing, we went to poor schools, received a poor education, and that poor education sent us on poor-paying jobs. It returned us right back into the poor community.
Paid you, what, $1.55 an hour. You know, here, the only job you're gonna get, wash these dishes. You know, a lot of disrespect, and I wasn't having that. And the only other way I knew to earn that type of money was in narcotics.
With Vietnam and the introduction of LSD and the return of the soldiers from Vietnam, the drug scene kind of proliferated.
Every man leaving South Vietnam now is tested for heroin addiction.
New York City was ground zero. 1 out of 5 men in Harlem were injecting heroin on a daily basis, and a rogues gallery of Cuban, Puerto Rican, and Black dealers fed the streets with the heroin and cocaine they got from their Italian suppliers, or, increasingly, that they got themselves directly. New connects, new sources of supply were appearing every day as the drug business had become an important part of the American economy.
The interesting thing is I toured the nation. I saw those same types of men in many cities, whether it was Philadelphia or Baltimore or Washington, D.C. They were the ones that would go to the little private parties after a concert, and those men were an elite group.
There's an old saying in the streets, there's no business like blow business. In 1970, $500 of Turkish morphine base turned into a $5,000 kilo of heroin in Marseille, France, which turned into a $20,000 kilo in New York, which could turn into as much as $1 million by the time it went into a junkie's veins. The poppy plant is the mother of the world's highest profit margin commodity.
This is right before Watergate. The president called all of us down to the White House for a meeting on his drug abuse plan. He was livid with rage when I told him what was going on in Brooklyn. But the violence in Brooklyn at the time, murders. Miami, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Atlanta, similar information was coming back. Some guy named Matthews was behind the local organizations in those cities. That he was tired of paying huge amounts of money to the La Cosa Nostra, and a group of Jewish businessmen in Brooklyn were distributing heroin.
You know, later I went to the hard narcotics smuggling section of customs. That's when I started getting a little bit of an education and understanding that all the heroin was coming from Italian sources, Jewish too.
In 1959, the criminal landscape of America changed drastically. After mob boss Vito Genovese was sent to prison for heroin conspiracy, the Mafia decided to get out of heroin, which really meant they would simply import the drug with the help of their CIA connections in Europe and let non-family members like the Jewish Herbie Sperling middleman the drug to Black and Latino dealers. The biggest middleman of all was Lou Cirillo, the Mafia's point man when they decided to get back in the business around 1970. Before Frank Matthews got his own Corsican source, Lou Cirillo supplied him, along with most of New York's biggest dealers. Something went wrong for the Mafia in 1972, though, something big. So big that the boss of the Lucchese family, Tommy Ryan Eboli, was executed in Crown Heights, Brooklyn on the orders of the Mafia Commission.
The basic issue for us is self-determination. It's to be able to live in America with some degree of dignity. It's to have some control over our own destiny. We don't want welfare, colonialism in the black ghetto. We don't want white business to come in and say, well, we're going to do you a favor today. We're going to give you 300 jobs. The basic issue has to do with whether or not we can control some employment for ourselves. And that means we've got to have some kind of selective patronage. We've got to control businesses in black communities.
So the mafia heroin business was in disarray and the French Connection was over. In this power vacuum, kingpins like Frank Matthews and Eddie Jackson became some of the richest black men in America almost overnight. Here's an interesting fact. When Norris Herndon, heir to the Atlanta Life Insurance Company and reputedly the richest black man in America, died in 1977, he was worth $23 million. I know for a fact that dealers like Nicky Barnes in New York and Eddie Jackson in Detroit were profiting up to $1 million a month at that time.
Because first thing they say, we know, they tell me, we know you don't carry no gun.
Yeah, they don't know.
We know, and we know you not, and you the money man. We know
They
that.
don't know. They don't know.
And you know, the best advice was from white police. They told me, say, Courtney, look here, we know who's who. He said, and he told me, these other damn fools, my partners, they damn fools. He said, let them think they the smartest motherfuckers in the world, and you can laugh yourself all the way to the bank.
You speak.
Let them think.
You speak in college level, Daddy. These brothers is retarded right now. You have to lower dummies now. You got to speak to them. They don't get it. They don't. That's
Frank Matthews told us. we meet Frank Matthews in New York.
Kindergarten. They don't understand.
We was at a casino in New York. Eddie and myself. We was in New York. We knew Frank. I heard of him because I told me about this guy named Frank Matthews out of New York. We in there at the crap table. Eddie shooting dice and stuff. And they got, I don't know how much money they had in there, and they throwing dice out, one betting against the other. They know each other at the time. So finally, broke down. The guy said, where you from? Eddie said, from Detroit. And the guy said, I'm out of Brooklyn. And then he said, what's your name? And the guy said, Frank. And Eddie said, Frank. And he said, what's your name? He said, Eddie. They didn't give no last name. So then the guy said, Frank Matthews. So I whispered to Eddie, I said, man, Doc told us about this guy. He's kind of big in New York. And then when Eddie said his name, he said, yeah, you out of Detroit. Yeah, I said, yeah. I said, the folks told us about you. What you mean? I said, you never said you was there, but you explained. Say, because they told about Nicky. He said, they don't fuck with Nicky Barnes. And he said, why? He said, because they say he was a cowboy. He's too wild. They wouldn't think. I knew some people dealing with Nicky at the time. I didn't know him, but some people I knew that were dealing with
Nicky through Clarence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he introduced me to him at the 20 grand.
Scared of nobody, because everybody got a gun.
All the years we was out in the streets, Eddie and us, we never carried a gun.
They don't get it.
Never.
They don't get it.
Now, maybe out of fear or whatever they thought. Now, we wasn't no punks. Now, we come to a fight out, shoot out there. But we try to stay, two ways we stayed away from. Eddie used to tell me, say, Courtney, look here. If I give you my shit and you don't pay me, I'll do like serious American Express, I don't give you no more credit. That's it. You ain't took nothing. Secondly, you don't disrespect nobody. No woman, you can't trade sex for money, and you can't do this for that. Now, if you go give her a blow, or when she's sick, or whatever her reason is, or his reason is, you treat them with respect. You don't call them out and you don't call them dopehead, crackheads, none of that. We could go to the best nightclubs in Detroit without a pistol. We go to 20 grand, Phelps, Mozambique,
the problem. This generation, they don't know about it. They think what today's time changed. This generation really think that having guns is what makes
you a man. That'll make you a man.
It's the validation.
Yeah,
everything
if you're too scared to take a punch, you're just a coward.
Yeah.
You killing people over what? Over what?
Absolutely nothing.
Everything now.
Then you can't afford the money for the dope case, so you know you can't afford the lawyer for the murder case. Man, I gotta go. Love you guys. Make sure you tune in.
Because you know, ain't no Big Ed and Demetrius have a few locked up in Big Ed in county jail.
And Big Ed, Hanson, was running with Speedy and Cousin Pam. When the same time when we was doing the Bahamas
Big Ed house about some jive. They said, well, I know somebody knows about that brown shit. And he called me over, they was on Evergreen. And I went over there and he said, what is this shit here? I said, I'm not hip to it, but I can test it for you and let you know what it is. And I've done a few things with him. Then we got locked up again. And I told Big Ed, I said, you going to jail. He said, what do you mean? I said, you going to jail. I don't care what the lawyer tell you. You got them goddamn guns. And I said, I don't know what you and Demetrius Feud is about. I said, but they're going to wind up with nigga shit. I'm telling you that right now. We was in the county jail together. And I said, I'm telling you right now, you going to jail. And you and that Demetrius, that shootout shit y'all doing is for kids. But he died. I said, I don't know. I don't want to hear why, how come, who, where. I'm just telling you, Big Ed. I call him Big Ed. I call him Ed. I said, you going to jail, and something gonna happen to you. Gonna get shit out. That's what Demetrius got, thing. So I locked up there when it showing up.
You was locked up when Demetrius got killed?
Yeah.
You got killed before you went
No,
away?
I got locked up when I was in Springfield. I never because I got the newspaper. So I called somebody back.
And you know the crazy thing about the night before that, Eddie Jr. was running, because when I was Eddie Jr. man, and we was at the 19th hole.
Yeah.
I mean, like 4 o'clock in the morning, for whatever reason I was driving, I took him to see Demetrius.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning he was supposed to go back to see him, and then next thing,
because Broadway closed.
When we got
and he had a gun on him. Like that guy told me that a long time ago. If a guy gets a drop on you, you can have all the machine gun. You ain't gonna get a chance to use it.
Oh yeah, that's a double. I'm sorry, this is gonna be the last one.
No, I mean you good. I'm good. I know you're not.
I gotta go too. No, but all this tough talk, all that pounding y'all chest that y'all doing on this internet, Instagram, y'all need to step that shit out. Cause ain't nobody tough. Ain't nobody tough.
Not for real.
For real. When that man got that thing to the side of your head, you ain't gonna be talking slick. Demetrius used to gamble big, right?
Oh yeah,
big.
One day had the club on chain there.
Yeah, but I mean when he would go out to Vegas.
Oh yeah, him, Butch Harris, all that crew out there.
Because I think Demetrius had backed some lady at a casino, and anyway, he bet on her to pass like $50,000 a hand anyway, and he won $800,000-$900,000. But anyway, he ended up with met a crew out of Miami. And again, you guys say Eddie Jr. really knows the story in detail, but I guess the way the story was told to me, so Demetrius meets this clique out of Florida down while he's out in Vegas gambling. He goes, then they exchange numbers, yada yada. He goes down to Miami subsequently later to meet the crew, to hang out with the fellas he met in Vegas. They do some shady shit that basically leads to him. But again, I don't know the details of it. Eddie knows the exact story because he got the story directly from Demetrius. But they gave him a Mickey and hit him for about $500,000, $1 million worth of jewelry, right? So I don't know if this transpired in Vegas or in Florida, right? You know something about this story?
Yeah.
Let's see this crazy world. So as the story goes, so Demetrius wasn't the kind of guy that has to take something like this laying down. Mm-hmm. He come back to Detroit, and he know where these guys kind of are at, right? They didn't play them, and he wake up all his jewelry gone. They hit him with the Mickey, and he bring the killing crew from Detroit down there, and to Florida. You do know about this story?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He get nervous, make a phone call, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Right. So they scoop up one of the niggas involved in this little sting that isn't caught him, right? And they got old boy, and they kind of trying to explain to him like, if my man don't get this jewelry back, bro, it's gonna be a really long day for you. So you need to make something happen. So my man who was involved in the scam and in the setup, he freaking out. He nervous because he know these guys ain't really playing. You're gonna have a real long day, and it may be your last day. So he starts, as the story told to me, and he starts reaching for names and and he like, what y'all from Detroit? No, I'm a good guy. I'm gonna get you back. I'm gonna get your man back your jewelry. You can ask anybody about me. You can ask Huckabuck. And I guess Demetrius say, well, you say Huckabuck. And he like, yeah, you know Huck? And Demetrius say, yeah, I know Huck. That's my man. He said, well, call Huckabuck. Huckabuck know about me, yada, yada, yada. So the story was told to me. Demetrius calls Huckabuck. Basically, hey, talk to this nigga here, man. Talk to this Negro. They talk and he like, get back the phone. And Demetrius like, well, what you saying? And Huckabuck like, I'm on my way down there, man. Don't do nothing to the man till I get down there. And Huck gets down there. He sees that it is his man that they about to do what they about to do about this situation. And Huckabuck told Demetrius, I stand for the man, man. Let the man go. He a righteous guy. He gonna do what he say he gonna do. And obviously Demetrius and them wasn't in a good mood about this shit. And they like, now look, Huck, that we let this man go, you kind of responsible for his actions. But as it went, they let the man go, and the man, like within 2 hours, came back with Demetrius's jewelry. Check us out, Big Boss Filmworks. Motown Mafia, Big Man on Campus, coming to you soon. Big shout outs always, Al Prophet, AmericanDope.com. Check it out. He's putting out some of the realest, authentic stuff out there. Not all this bubblegum, fantasy island,